First Contact, the Silent Watchers. The great Archive ship Eternal Memory drifted through the void, its crystalline surfaces refracting starlight in impossible patterns. Within its depths, the being known as First Archivist, Hell moved through corridors of living crystal, their form a shifting mass of translucent angles and flowing light. For 10,000 years, they had documented the rise and fall of civilizations across the galaxy. Today, something new had caught their attention. Analysis complete. First Archivist announced Second Archivist Venri, their form pulsing with excitement. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our records. These vessels appear to be using a fusion of primitive chemical propulsion and advanced quantum manipulation. The vessels in question were 3 warships of the United Earth Fleet, though the Archivists didn't yet know this name. The ships moved through space with a peculiar grace, their hulls gleaming with a metallic sheen that seemed almost crude to the ancient being's senses. Yet there was something elegant in their design, a perfect marriage of form and function. Most curious, Pelor observed, their crystalline form shifting to a deeper blue of contemplation. They achieve faster than light travel through brute force rather than elegant manipulation of space-time, yet their method is undeniably effective. The lead human ship, the UEF Hyperion, cut through space with confidence, unaware of the ancient eyes watching them. Captain Sarah Chen stood on her bridge, dark eyes focused on the main viewport as her crew worked around her. They were 3 months into humanity's first deep space expedition beyond known territory, and so far they had found nothing but empty systems and dead worlds. New readings from the quantum array, Captain Lieutenant James Rodriguez reported from his science station. Some kind of signal, but it's like nothing I've ever seen. It's singing to the quantum field somehow. Chen moved to look over his shoulder at the readings, her expression thoughtful. 20 years of service hadn't prepared her for what they were seeing. Can you trace it? Negative, Captain. It's everywhere and nowhere at once. Like the space itself is resonating. In the Archive ship, the Archivists continued their observation with growing interest. These humans, as they had learned to call them from intercepted communications, showed remarkable adaptability. Their technology was a fascinating mix of crude and sophisticated solutions. They're detecting our quantum resonance field, Venri noted with surprise. Their sensors are remarkably sensitive for such young beings. Indeed, Pelor agreed, and observed their ship design. They use physical armor alongside energy shields. Inefficient by our standards, yet it provides redundancy we never considered necessary. These humans planned for failure in ways we forgot long ago. On the Hyperion, Chen ordered a full sensor sweep of the area. Her crew worked with practiced efficiency, each at their station contributing to building a picture of their surroundings. The ship's massive engines thrummed with power, quantum fields dancing around the conventional fusion drive in a way that made the Archivist's sensors flicker with interest. Launch a probe, Chen ordered. Let's see what's out here. The probe shot from the Hyperion's launch bay, its own smaller quantum drive activating as it began its survey pattern. The Archivists watched with fascination as the simple device began mapping quantum fields they had assumed were undetectable to such young beings. Their probe, Venri observed, their form flickering with excitement. It's using quantum entanglement for instantaneous data transmission. But they've combined it with conventional radio as a backup. Again, this redundancy. They expect things to go wrong. Pelor realized, their crystalline form shifting to a new configuration of understanding. All their technology is built with failure in mind, not to prevent it, but to survive it. How fascinating. The probe's readings began flowing back to the Hyperion, painting a picture of quantum disturbances that made Chen's eyebrows rise. Whatever's out there, she said quietly, it's big and old, very old. The Archivists continued their silent observation, recording every detail of these newcomers to their sector of space. Humanity's first steps into the deeper galaxy were being witnessed by beings who had watched civilizations rise and fall like waves on a cosmic shore. Should we reveal ourselves? Venri asked, their form showing patterns of uncertainty. Pellar considered this for a long moment, watching as the human ships continued their methodical exploration. Not yet, they decided. Let us watch a while longer. These humans, they are different from the others we have observed. Let us see what they do when they find something truly challenging. As if in answer to this thought, the Hyperion sensors suddenly lit up with new readings. In the distance, energy signatures flared, signs of a battle. Captain Chen's expression hardened as she read the data. Multiple ships engaged in combat, 15 light minutes out, Rodriguez reported. One appears to be a civilian transport under attack. Chen didn't hesitate. Plot an intercept course. Let's see what kind of welcome wagon our galaxy has to offer. The archivists watched as the human ships changed course, their formation tightening as they accelerated toward the distant battle. These humans, it seemed, were about to show them exactly what they were capable of when challenged. Pellar's form shifted to the deep purple of anticipation. Record everything, they commanded. These thunder-bearing ships of man are about to teach us something new about the galaxy we thought we knew so well. The hunt was on, and humanity's first true test in the deeper galaxy was about to begin. The Trial of Steel. The UEF Hyperion dropped out of quantum space like a predator emerging from deep water. Its sister ships, Artemis and Orion, flanked it in perfect formation. The scene before them made Captain Chen's jaw tighten. A civilian transport vessel, its hull scared and burning, desperately evading fire from 3 sleek, predatory ships of unknown design. Life signs on the transport, Chen demanded. Reading 217 civilians, Rodriguez reported, his fingers dancing over his console. Multiple species. Looks like a refugee transport, Captain. In the archive ship, the archivists watched with growing interest. These raiders are Kaztar, Venri observed. They prey on refugee ships, selling survivors into slavery. No young species has ever successfully engaged them in combat. The humans do not know this, Pellar noted. Watch how they respond. Chen's voice carried the weight of command as she issued orders. Target the lead raider. All ships prepare to execute Maneuver 7. Let's show these pirates what happens when they prey on the helpless. The human ships moved with choreographed precision. The Hyperion charged straight ahead, drawing the raiders' attention, while Artemis and Orion split off to opposite sides. The raiders, confident in their superior technology, moved to engage. Their formation is flawed, Venri observed. They expect the humans to flee like all others do. The first raider fired, energy beams lancing out toward the Hyperion. But the human ship's response shocked both the raiders and the watching archivists. Instead of raising energy shields, the Hyperion's hull suddenly erupted with a cloud of metallic particles. Chaff screen deployed. Rodriguez reported as the enemy fire dispersed harmlessly in the cloud. Their targeting systems are confused, Captain. Physical particles to disrupt energy weapons, Pellar marveled. So primitive, yet so effective. The Hyperion's response was immediate and devastating. Railed guns along its hull roared to life, accelerating projectiles to relativistic speeds. The thunder of their passage echoed through space, a sound that should have been impossible in vacuum, but was created by the quantum fields wrapping each shot. The lead raider's shields, designed to stop energy weapons, proved surprisingly vulnerable to kinetic impacts. The railgun rounds punched through, tearing into their hull. Meanwhile, Artemis and Orion had completed their flanking maneuver. All ships, execute quantum lance, Chen ordered. The archivists watched in amazement as the 3 human ships coordinated their quantum fields in a way they had never seen before. The fields intersected, creating a temporary corridor of distorted space that trapped the raiders in place. Fascinating. Pellar's form pulsed with excitement. They've weaponized quantum field interference. The concept is elegant in its brutality. The raiders, finding themselves unable to maneuver, began broadcasting surrender signals. Chen's response was measured but firm. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with extreme force. As Marine teams from all 3 human ships prepared to board the raiders, the archivists continued their observation. The refugees on the transport were already sending thanks, their signals filled with relief and gratitude. Notice, Venri pointed out, they disabled rather than destroyed. Even in combat, they show restraint. The boarding action was swift and professional. The human Marines moved through the raider ships with practiced efficiency, their armor a mix of physical plates and energy fields that once again demonstrated humanity's preference for redundant systems. Captain, Rodriguez called out, "You need to see this. The raiders' cargo holds. They're full of stasis pods. Previous victims." Chen's expression hardened. "Get those pods open. Nobody gets sold into slavery on our watch." The archivists watched as the humans systematically freed hundreds of captured beings from multiple species. The care they showed to the confused and frightened survivors was notable. "They risked themselves for strangers," Pellar observed, "and their technology, while young, is used with remarkable skill and purpose." As the rescue operation continued, the archivists began detecting quantum disturbances that made their crystalline forms vibrate with concern. "More Castar ships approaching," Venri announced. "A full battle fleet. The humans are about to face forces that have destroyed civilizations." On the Hyperion, Chen received the same information from her sensors. Her response was immediate. "Get those survivors aboard the transport. All ships, prepare for combat. We're not letting these slavers take one more innocent life." "They cannot win against such odds." Venri's form flickered with concern. "Perhaps," Pellar responded, their crystalline structure shifting to deep blue contemplation. "But I suspect these thunder-bearing ships of man are about to show us that 'cannot' is a word they do not fully understand." As the Castar battle fleet emerged from quantum space, the 3 human ships moved to protect the transport, their engines flaring with power, railguns charging, and quantum fields beginning to dance. The trial of steel was about to become a legend, and the archivists settled in to witness history in the making. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's response to impossible odds was 2 simple words: watch us. Bridge of Understanding. The space around the Hyperion lit up like a newborn star. Captain Chen watched as the massive Castar battle fleet emerged from quantum space, their ships forming an attack pattern that spoke of centuries of combat experience. But humanity had not come this far by backing down. "Interesting tactical choice," came an unfamiliar voice over the bridge speakers. Every screen on the Hyperion suddenly filled with shifting patterns of crystalline light. "Your formation suggests you intend to engage a force that outnumbers you 20-1. Chen didn't hesitate. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the UEF Hyperion. Identify yourself." The crystalline patterns coalesced into a form that seemed to exist somewhere between light and matter. "I am First Archivist Pellar of the Archive ship Eternal Memory. We have been watching your species with great interest, Captain Chen." Before Chen could respond, the tactical display lit up with new contacts. The Castar fleet's formation was suddenly disrupted as massive crystalline ships appeared among them, their surfaces refracting starlight in impossible ways. "Perhaps," Pellar continued, "it is time we did more than wash." The Castar fleet's response was immediate and predictable. They opened fire. Energy beams powerful enough to crack planets lanced out toward the crystalline vessels. But the beams simply passed through them, as if the ships were made of nothing but light. "Your assistance is appreciated," Shen replied diplomatically, even as she ordered her ships to maintain combat readiness. "But we can't abandon these refugees." "No one is suggesting you should." Pellar's voice carried an undertone of approval. "We wish to observe how your thunder-bearing ships handle this situation. Consider us interested parties." The Castar fleet split its attention between the human ships and the ghostly crystalline vessels, clearly unsure which presented the greater threat. Chen saw the opportunity immediately. "All ships, execute Protocol Thunderstrike," she ordered. Let's show our new friends how humanity handles bullies. The three human ships moved with precision that made the archivist's crystalline forms pulse with appreciation. The Hyperion charged straight at the enemy fleet, its rail guns singing their thunderous song. Artemis and Orion split off, their quantum fields weaving a complex pattern that seemed to confuse the Castar targeting systems. Most interesting, Pellar observed. Your quantum field manipulation is unorthodox, but remarkably effective. The Castar fleet's formation began to break down as they tried to track targets that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. The human ship's quantum fields created ghost images that scattered their fire, while precisely aimed rail gunshots disrupted their shields. Your weapons, Second Archivist Venri joined the communication, their form shimmering with curiosity. They combined primitive kinetic force with quantum enhancement. We had not considered such an approach possible. Humanity's specialty, Chen replied, even as she ordered another attack run, is finding new ways to do the impossible. The battle shifted as the archivist ships began to move. They didn't fire weapons or raise shields. Instead, their crystalline forms seemed to bend space itself, creating corridors of twisted reality that trapped Castar ships in temporal eddies. We do not engage in combat, Pellar explained, but we can adjust local physics to be less favorable for aggressors. Chen watched in amazement as a Castar battlecruiser tried to fire its main weapon, only to find its energy beam looping back on itself in an impossible spiral. "Remind me to never get on your bad side," she muttered. The combination of human firepower and archivist reality manipulation proved too much for the Castar fleet. Within 20 minutes, the remaining ships were retreating in disarray, leaving behind their disabled companions. "Your species continues to surprise us," Pellar said as the last enemy ships vanished into quantum space. "We have observed many civilizations, but few have shown such effective innovation in combat while maintaining ethical constraints." "We try to find the balance," Chen replied. "Power without restraint is just another form of barbarism." "Perhaps," Venri suggested, their form shifting to a hopeful blue hue, "we might engage in an exchange of knowledge. Your approach to quantum mechanics alone raises questions we have not considered in millennia." The refugee transport, now safely protected, began coordinating with the human ships for escort to safe harbor. Chen looked at the crystalline ships that had aided them, seeing an opportunity humanity had never dreamed of. "I think," she said carefully, "that's an excellent idea. But first, we need to get these people to safety. Would you care to accompany us? I imagine we both have many questions for each other." The archivist's ships moved into formation with the human vessels, their crystalline surfaces now glowing with warm, welcoming light. "Indeed," Pellar agreed. "It seems the thunder-bearing ships of man have much to teach even those who thought they knew everything." As the combined fleet set course for safe harbor, humans and archivists began their first real conversations. Two species, separated by eons of development, but united by curiosity, had found something unexpected in each other: the potential for growth. The bridge of understanding was being built, one question at a time. The quantum storm. 3 months after the battle with the Castar fleet, the UEF Hyperion floated in space beside the crystalline bulk of the eternal memory. The two ships had become an increasingly common sight together as humans and archivists exchanged knowledge and ideas. "Impossible," stated Archivist Venri, their crystalline form flickering with disbelief as they studied the human quantum drive. "You cannot simply force a quantum field through mechanical gears." Lieutenant Rodriguez grinned as he adjusted the drive settings. "And yet, here we are. Sometimes the crude solution is the best solution." In the Eternal Memory's vast library chamber, Captain Chen stood with First Archivist Pellar, surrounded by crystalline displays showing star charts and quantum field readings. Their discussion was interrupted by a sudden alarm that made Pellar's form shift to a dark, worry purple. "Multiple quantum field disruptions detected," announced the archive ship's sensors. "Pattern suggests cascade failure approaching critical levels." Chen recognized the tone of genuine concern in Pellar's voice. In 3 months of interaction, she'd never heard the ancient being sound worried. What are we looking at? The crystalline displays shifted, showing a spreading wave of quantum distortions. A quantum storm, Pellar explained, their form pulsing with urgency. The fabric of space-time is unraveling in this sector. If not contained, it will destroy everything within 50 light-years. Population centers in the affected area? Chen asked immediately. 17 inhabited worlds. Approximately 8 billion sentient beings. Chen's expression hardened. How long do we have? The storm will reach critical mass in 48 hours. But Pellar's form flickered with hesitation. Even our most advanced techniques cannot stop a quantum storm of this magnitude. The energy levels are beyond our ability to manipulate. Chen studied the data displays, her mind racing. Maybe you can't stop it because you're trying to be too elegant about it, she said slowly. What if we tried something cruder? Pellar's form shifted to a curious blue. Explain. Your ships can manipulate local space-time with incredible precision. Our ships can punch holes in reality with brute force. What if we combine the two approaches? The next hour was spent in intense discussion as humans and archivists worked together to develop a plan that neither species would have conceived of alone. The Eternal Memory's vast computing systems ran simulations while the Hyperion's engineers worked to modify their quantum drives. The plan is insane, Venri declared, watching as human engineers attached crystalline control matrices to their railguns, using weapon systems to deliver quantum stabilization fields. The precision required is beyond anything we've attempted. That's why we're not going to be precise, Rodriguez explained as he calibrated the systems. We're going to hit it with everything we've got and let your control matrices handle the fine-tuning. More ships arrived as the quantum storm grew. 3 more human vessels and 2 archive ships. The combined fleet took up position at the edge of the distortion zone, their crews working frantically to implement Chen and Pellar's desperate plan. All ships report ready, announced Lieutenant Rodriguez. The quantum storm now filled half the viewport, a writhing mass of distorted space that bent light in impossible ways. The containment matrices are at full power, Pellar added, their form now a determined deep blue. But I must emphasize, Captain, if this fails, it won't fail, Chen interrupted, because it can't fail. There are 8 billion people counting on us, even if they don't know it yet. The human ships moved into formation, their modified railguns aimed at key points in the quantum storm that the archivist's sensors had identified. The archive ships positioned themselves between the human vessels, their crystalline surfaces pulsing with power. On my mark, Chen ordered. All ships, execute quantum breach protocol. The railguns fired, their thunderous reports echoing through space. But instead of solid projectiles, they launched concentrated packets of quantum energy, each contained within a crystalline matrix. The archive ships caught these packets in fields of pure energy, their ancient technology guiding and shaping the raw power of human ingenuity. Energy patterns are stabilizing, Venri reported, their form flickering rapidly as they processed data. The crude delivery method is actually working. The storm's quantum matrices are realigning. For 6 hours, the combined fleet worked to contain and disperse the quantum storm. Human ships fired volley after volley of quantum packets while the archive ships wove them into an ever-tightening net of stabilized space-time. Finally, the storm began to collapse in on itself. Where there had been chaotic energy readings, normal space reasserted itself. The threat was over. Analysis confirms full containment and dispersal, Pellar announced, their form glowing with a mixture of relief and amazement. The quantum storm has been neutralized. All inhabited worlds in the sector are safe. A cheer went up from the human crews. Even the archivist's crystalline forms seemed to pulse with something like celebration. You know, Chen said to Pellar as they watched the last readings return to normal, I think we both learned something important today. Indeed, Pellar agreed, their form shifting to a thoughtful blue. Sometimes the greatest wisdom lies in knowing when to set aside elegance in favor of effectiveness. The combined fleet began to stand down from emergency stations, but everyone knew that something fundamental had changed. Humans and archivists had proven that their different approaches to the universe weren't just compatible, they were complementary. The quantum storm had been defeated not by ancient wisdom alone, nor by human innovation alone, but by both together. It was a lesson neither species would soon forget. Legacy of Two Worlds. The Great Hall of the Galactic Conclave buzzed with activity as representatives from 100 species gathered to witness something unprecedented. At the center of the chamber, Captain Sarah Chen stood beside First Archivist Pellar. Their contrasting forms, one solid and human, one crystalline and flowing, symbolizing the unusual partnership that had saved billions of lives. The containment of the quantum storm marks a turning point. Pellar addressed the assembled delegates, their form glowing with dignified purpose. For millions of years, the archivists have watched and recorded. We believe this was wisdom. The humans have shown us that true wisdom lies in knowing when to act. Chen stepped forward, her dress uniform gleaming under the chamber's lights. And humanity has learned that innovation without guidance can be as dangerous as stagnation. Together, we discovered something greater than either of us could have achieved alone. The presentation screens showed recordings of the quantum storm containment, drawing gasps from the assembled delegates as they watched human warships and archive ships working in perfect harmony to save an entire sector of space. That's why we're here today, Chen continued, to propose something new. A partnership between humanity and the archivists that goes beyond simple cultural exchange. We will establish joint research facilities, Pellar announced, their form shifting to bright, optimistic colors. Places where human innovation and archivist knowledge can combine to solve the challenges that face all species. In the audience, Lieutenant Rodriguez sat beside Archivist Venry, both of them watching their superiors with pride. The quantum drive modifications they'd developed together were already being implemented across both fleets, creating ships that combined the best of both civilizations' approaches. But this partnership extends beyond technology, Chen explained. We're establishing joint patrol fleets, thunder-bearing ships of man working alongside archive ships to protect those who need protection, to maintain peace where we can, and to face threats that neither of us could handle alone. The screens showed new vessel designs, ships that combined human practical engineering with archivist quantum manipulation. They were beautiful in their hybrid nature, neither purely human nor purely archivist, but something new and powerful. Some will say this goes against tradition, Pellar acknowledged, their form pulsing with conviction. That archivists should only watch and record. But the humans have taught us that tradition must sometimes yield to necessity. The galaxy is changing. We must change with it. And some humans, Chen added, will say we're moving too fast, reaching too far. But the archivists have taught us that true strength lies not in standing alone, but in standing together, in combining the wisdom of age with the energy of youth. The announcement of the joint fleet patrols drew particular attention. The idea of human warships working alongside archive ships was revolutionary. The Castar representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats, remembering their recent encounter with this combination. This partnership, Pellar continued, represents something unprecedented in our records. Not one species teaching another, but two species learning from each other, growing together. We call it the Bridge Initiative, Chen announced. Because that's what we're building. Bridges between species, between technologies, between different ways of thinking. In the weeks that followed, the impact of the announcement rippled across the galaxy. The sight of human ships and archive ships working together became increasingly common. Joint research facilities began producing innovations that neither species would have conceived of alone. More importantly, other species began to take notice. The Castar, faced with the combined might of human determination and archivist wisdom, began to reconsider their predatory ways. Younger species, seeing the success of the partnership, became more open to interacting with both humans and archivists. On the bridge of the Hyperion, now equipped with crystalline quantum matrices that worked in harmony with its conventional systems, Chen stood with Pellar, watching the stars. "Did you ever imagine," Chen asked, "when you first detected our ships, that it would lead to this?" Pellar's form shifted to a contemplative blue. "In all our millions of years of observation, we never imagined we would find a young species that would teach us as much as we could teach them. Your thunder-bearing ships have become more than just vessels. They've become symbols of what's possible when wisdom and innovation work together." "And your archive ships," Chen replied, "have become symbols of how ancient knowledge can adapt to change without losing its essence." As they spoke, more ships appeared around them, human vessels and archive ships preparing for a joint patrol mission. Each fleet had maintained its unique character while learning to work in harmony with the other. "The galaxy is entering a new age," Pellar observed, "one where the thunder of human ships and the wisdom of the archivists work together to light the way forward." Chen smiled as she watched the combined fleet form up around them. "Well then," she said, "let's show them how it's done. All ships, prepare for quantum jump. We've got a galaxy to protect." The fleet disappeared into quantum space, leaving behind a legacy that would reshape the galaxy. The thunder-bearing ships of man and the archive ships of the Ancient Ones had found something neither expected, a future brighter than either could have achieved alone. And somewhere in the vast database of the eternal memory, a new entry was made. Today marks not an ending, but a beginning. Today, we stopped merely watching history and started helping to make it.